What's good, guys? Ezekiel the Barber back with another barbering episode for you. Today's haircut, we have a OA or a half guard on the side with a small trim off the top. So this is what we're starting with here. Alright, so we'll start our first guideline using that half or an OA. All the same thing, even the 1/16th guard. That's all in the same length. Alright, so there it is there, that half or the OA. So we'll use this to basically set my first guideline. So here I go. So in this case, I basically want to set that guideline kind of around the temple area. Now this is going to be a drop fade, so from a half into the top. So I kind of want to insinuate that drop in the fade. If you've seen my previous videos, you know what I mean. If not, then here it is here. So see where I started, and then that fade will kind of graduate. It'll kind of drop down there. So it's that drop in the fade, that drop fade action. Alright, so there's that drop in the fade. We just kind of want to create that drop. Then as you see me kind of pulling that fade back up, making it as even as the other side when it gets to the front. So there's that drop in the back. Always want to pull that ear out of the way. Definitely a safety precaution. Alright, so this side we're right back up near the temple area. You see that drop in the fade. So that looks pretty good to me for the first guideline. Probably okay to go to the next step. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so it looks like he doesn't want to keep any of the sideburns, so eventually we'll get rid of the sideburns. Just want to make sure that the guidelines are really clean before I go to my next one. So any hair that seems uneven, I definitely want to kind of go back over those areas. Alright, so that looks pretty good there. Alright, so that's the starting of the cut. So next, guys, I'm going to go to the 3.5 metal guard. It's basically essentially the same thing as a 3 guard. Very close in length. So I just chose to use the 3.5. So I'll just set that guideline. Not looking to go up too far as into the top of his head. So you see I'm going up about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Kind of where the side of his head separates going into the top. That's pretty much where I'm topping out my guideline. So Alright, cool. So far we've used a OA guard, we've used a number 3.5 metal. So now I just want to set my next guideline to go ahead and start creating that fade. So we're going to use the number 1 guard. Alright, I'm going to start with that clipper lever all the way open, so you'll see that here. And I'm also using the wall senior clipper. So this is pretty much my go-to clipper, my only corded clipper in my arsenal, so definitely says a lot. So let's go ahead and set that guideline. That's the open lever right there. So we're going to start with that lever open and just go up about, I'd say, 1/2 to 1/4 of an inch within the other guideline that I set. So there it is there. Now either I could do one of two things, is basically fade up, going to my next guard, which after this one guard is a 1.5, or I could fade down in reverse and take off the bottom line that you see there, that little hard line. I'll use 1/2 for that. So with cutting hair, I mean, there is no method to the madness as long as you make sure everything's faded in. I like to keep everything in a good sequence so I can know how much progress I've made, what guards I've used, which ones I need to use, and what have you. So right now we're currently using that number 1 open. The closer I get to the bottom of that fade, the hard line that you see under there, I'll use a closed one to kind of get that out, and then eventually go to that 1/2 guard. We did start with a 1/2, so it kind of blends it in. So right now that lever's still open, creating that same guideline all the way around, just trying to make sure everything's even as far as the guideline spacing. Alright, so you can see that hard line kind of at the bottom of the fade still. So eventually we'll go to the 1/2 guard, even no guard, to kind of blend that bottom line in going into the top, and then work our way up the fades.
Hey, no offense, Ezekiel, brother, but we gotta get this a little bit more popping in here, brother.
What? Who are you?
Who am I? Who are you? That's the real question. Who are you?
All the energy, huh?
Yeah, brother.
You just try to get back to my show, man. All that energy. Moving right along, guys. Let's get back to it. Alright, so here you see me with the 1/2 guard. The same thing as the 1/16 or the OA, but I'm going to start with that lever all the way open. It's more or less a 1. When I close that lever all the way up, that's basically going to be a true 1/2. So that's how I blend that into the bottom. Right now I'm starting with it open since we did just use a number 1 guard. So it's more closer to a number 1 in length, which actually blends that line that I just pointed out to you in a little better. Now eventually, the closer we get to that true 1/2, I can close that guard up and everything should be able to be smoothed out. That's kind of what you see me doing here. I still have that lever open with that 1/2 guard. Eventually I'll close it up and fade that bottom line in. There it is there. There's that bottom line. So we're going to close that lever up and then just attack the bottom line. You see me opening and closing it a little. The higher I go up, I'll open the lever. The closer I am to the bottom of that guideline, I'll just attack it with a closed lever. And that's how I basically create my fades.
You are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber TV, feeling macho.
Thank you. Yes, got to have the hype man. Alright, so here just looking to erase that line and fade that in just like the other side. So I'm going to start with that open lever, go up just a little bit, don't want to erase the guideline we just put in there. So I'm attacking right at that line, close the lever up a little bit and attack a little lower going into that fade. So I don't want to erase the guideline, that will erase the fade. So once I set the guideline, I only go up just about a little bit to kind of really attack that hard bottom line, not affecting the new guideline that we set. So I like to keep that, if I use the number 1 there, I like to keep that the same number 1. So you see that hard line there a little bit, so I'm going to close that lever up with the half guard and then attack right at that bottom line. As I go up, I'll open that lever as it transitions into that number 1 where I use the number 1 guard. Alright, cool, that's looking a lot better. Using the corner of the clipper to kind of get some of the hard to get spots, make sure everything is pretty smooth. Alright, so next up is the 1.5 guard. You see that 1.5 guard there, so we'll just use this to go a little bit higher, so that hard line that you see there. So wherever we use the 1, I'm going up about, I'd say another 1/4 to a 1/2 inch above that. As you see that hard line there, just trying to attack that hard line is basically to smooth things out a little bit. I did start with a open lever. Then eventually, the closer that I get towards the bottom, I'll close that lever up. You can basically hear how quiet these wall singers are. That's why I do like them. They are the corded version, so that power is kind of endless. As long as it's plugged in and you have power, you're good to go. So definitely love this clipper. And I have not been paid by any sponsors or anything on my current videos or previous videos. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I definitely stand by these products. Seeing is believing, so that's why I demonstrate this for you guys. Definitely a good clipper.
Alright guys, let's get back to some action.
Okay, there it is. So there's that number 2 guard. I have to use that number 2 guard for my next guideline. We've just used the 1.5. So I'm gonna take this a little bit higher. So I'm gonna start with that open lever. Try to zoom in there for you guys. So you can see this. So you can see where there are dark areas, guys. So hopefully this number 2 guard, even though I did use a number 3, initially, this number 2 guard just blends everything in nice and smooth. So wherever the dark areas are, that's where I'm basically trying to attack with that open number 2. And that's basically creating that fade. Alright guys, so basically, I think I'm going to let Macho Man take over kind of how to kind of create that second guideline using that number 2 guard. Macho Man, do you mind?
Alright, sure. We're still using that number 2 guard with that lever all the way open. You see me going up a little bit. Just trying to erase some of that bulk there, guys. Alright, and I'm back trying to take out that weight that you see there. Eventually I'll close that glide up, close that lever up, and we'll get right in there a little better. Now you see that fade is coming together. You are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. Yes. Alright guys, I'll be back a little later for some more action.
Yeah.
Let's get back into the cut.
Hey man, you heard the man. Macho Man. That's a bad dude right there. That was a bad dude right there, guys. Macho Man Randy Savage, my impersonation. And this guy also in my chair was a Macho Man in high school. This was the guy.
You see that face coming together? Pure action, guys. Pure freaking action.
All right, Randy. All right, thank you. And this guy, definitely, as I was trying to say, a beast in high school. I've been cutting this youngster since high school, probably his freshman year. Already out of high school, moving on, pushing through life. Excited to see what's next from this young man right here. Okay, so next we have the zero guard in what's called a speedo clip or speedo guide. With the zero guard, it's basically a number 2. With a 2-0 with the speedo clip, it's basically a number 1. With the 000, it's close to a half. So I know that was really fast for you. But right now we're using what's basically a number 2, though it says 0. And man, I really had to turn this segment down because these Andy's clippers are so exceptionally loud. But we do share a good common interest, man. I mean, definitely loud, but they do their job. So I keep them around. So that's basically a glimpse of the natural sound at, 0 dB. So basically not taking any volume away the clipper at its natural sound, the way that the recorder picked it up. So I think I end up turning the levels down to pretty much like a -20 just to get it to where I could talk through and you could be able to hear me. So definitely a loud clipper, but it's a must to have in my arsenal. I do appreciate the Andy's Masters. Alright, so here I'm basically using the 00. So you see that 00 on the speedo clip, which is basically equivalent to a number 1. So wherever I use that number 1, I just kind of, if I see any dark areas that I want to kind of transition better, that's basically what I'm looking for in this area. So part of being a barber, a good barber, is finding the areas that are uneven and attempting to make them even based off the guides that you already set. So that's basically why I like to use guidelines. Because wherever I use a certain guard, say a half or a 1, 1.5 or a 2, I can always go back in that region and basically use a guard to clean up that area. So whatever that length is, that's why I like cutting with a system. So for all those guys who don't like system barbers or whatever, there's definitely a method to the madness.
You're in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. Step into the cut, brothers and sisters.
Oh man, you guys heard the man. Yeah, you in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. I appreciate you though. Yeah, so back to the business side of things, guys. Basically what you see me doing here is still using that 00 guard with the Andy's Masters cordless clipper. So you are in the cut, trying to take down some macho hair. Alright, trying to do some macho fades in the cut. We do macho fades in the cut. Alright guys, so you see that blend basically coming together. You see that drop in the fade. We started with the half. Set our guidelines. So now it's time to go to that 000 guard. I've already used that 00. The 000 is basically equivalent to a half size guard. So that 0 guard, that's basically what this is. So it's a 000 on here. So a lot of times you can kind of get things misconstrued if you're not sure on what's what. The way 000 metal would be really stubbly bald. So with the Speedo clips, their measurements are slightly different. So here you see me using it in the same place that I basically use the half guard. So if I basically used a 000 metal, it would basically bald things out. That's lower than the half. So that's why the measurements aren't really on point. That's why I'm giving you guys some pretty good insight, good information on basically the translations of different guards, as opposed from, you know, the metal guards to, say, the guards that come with the masters, as opposed to universal guards such as the Speedo clips. So the Speedo clips are kind of on their own measurements, but I like the Speedo clips because they're really short. Teeth on the clips allows you to kind of get in hard to get areas. Even though here you see me going back to the number 1 masters, the number 1 master guard. So the more experience you get with clippers, the more you understand your tools. Just like anything else, the more you use them, the more of an understanding you'll have, kind of when to go with what guard. Alright, so kind of a side angle of things, kind of how things are going. So what's going on in the cut?
You're in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. Step into the cut.
Alright, and this is kind of how things were going before the cut. So it was time to get on in there, get cleaned up a little bit. So get my guy right here. Alright, so we're back. So now it's time to start working on that top. Things look okay on the sides. So just kind of want to see where he wants to be on the top. Don't want to soak it out too bad, but I definitely want to put some water in there. So just kind of want to keep everything moisturized as much as possible. Alright, so looks pretty good there. Don't want to soak it all crazy. So that's pretty much what we're starting with. Time to find my guideline. So he has the mirror. He's gonna tell me right about where he wants to be. It looks like that much off, so boom, we'll start there. And we'll kind of work that guideline all the way around. Like to pull that hair straight up and cut straight up. So from whatever angle I'm at, to keep everything nice and even, just want to cut the hair from the same direction, pull it straight up. As you see, when I get to the front, I kind of pull out a little bit to overextend that hair. Keeps it slightly longer to kind of work with a little better for styling purposes. So I find that when hair is slightly longer in the front, it gives them a little bit more area to kind of play with as far as styling. So I won't go super long. I'll keep everything in pretty much in the same region, but I will leave that front a tad bit longer, maybe a 1/4 inch at the most. Alright, so we're working our way around with the guideline. Kind of want to check from every angle to make sure that the hairs are even all the way across the board. So I'll cut from front to back, then I'll cut from basically a side angle from north and south, and then I'll cut east and west basically. So just covering all of my angles, making sure everything is even across the board. You hear those shears going to work. Grab that mirror. Sorry about that, brother. Had him holding the mirror the whole time. So alright, so time to get a little bit of hair out of there with the blow dryer. Get a little bit of that loose hair out of there on the top, then kind of comb through it. And then I'll double check, double, triple, or even quadruple check my work, especially when it comes to the top. So. And I do cut to a look, so once everything kind of looks the way it's supposed to, then I think we're pretty good to go. So. once again, just double checking my work. Alright, so you have that drop fade with a little trim off the top so that basically the haircut is definitely coming together. Alright, so just going over my work. So there's the clipper over comb. There's the comb that I like to use. Pretty thick there. So I like to use this comb because it's pretty much error free as long as you use it the right way. So it virtually makes it impossible to put a bald spot if that's not what you're intending. So for me, it's the perfect clipper over comb for me, especially for what I'm doing here. So as you can see, some of that hair sticking out the sides in that area. I just kind of want to make all that nice and smooth and transition really smooth. So that's what I like about this comb. It kind of does that. As you can see, some of that hair popping out from the bottom going into the top. So we're just going to clipper over comb that and try to make everything nice and smooth. Bringing those sides in, smoothing that transition from the sides going into the top a lot better with the clipper over comb technique. Alright, time for a little lineup work. I'm going to use the Babyliss Pro trimmers with a comb. He wants to get rid of that hair, so we'll just use those trimmers to kind of bald that area out. And he also wants to taper the sides and the back going into the haircut. So now that we've pretty much done the fade, the top, this is pretty much the framework, the outline work. Kind of makes the haircut pop or stand out. These are some of the techniques that I use.
You're in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. Step into the cut.
Man, coming through all hyped as always. Thank you. Alright, so still with this macho fade that we got going today, guys. Just doing the lineup work. As you can see, it definitely makes the haircut pop and stick out. So definitely love doing that outline work. To me, it's critical for the look. better here from this angle. Alright, and the other side, not as detailed. We'll take care of that. So I'm just balding out since he still does want a taper. Just gonna bald out in this area. Now if he didn't want the taper, of course I would see if he wanted it round or square, and of course I wouldn't take that hair that I just cut out of there. But since he is gonna taper it, which is essentially bald fading into his haircut, it's okay to do that. So now we're just gonna line the left side up as we did the right side. We want to keep everything even. Alright, so here's basically a look at the fade with the detailed lineup work. Alright, so a quick look at that. So now basically I just have to do the front lineup, so everything looks pretty good here. Just want to go ahead and start that taper, so I'm going to close that lever all the way up, which is going to give me sort of a bald look. I'm not going to go too high, we're just going to bald that out right there. Then eventually I'll open that lever, go a little higher, and bald it into that half. So, to me, the open wall is basically equivalent to a half. So it just blends right in, usually nice and smooth. Alright, pretty fast there. Then we're just going to go ahead and do the back taper. So when I close that lever up, we just balded it out. So closed lever is going to give us really close to a bald look. When I open that lever up and go a little higher, it goes smooth right into that half. So everything looks nice and smooth. Not looking to go too high to take away the fade. Just want to fade the bottom end to the fade. There it is there. You don't see a hard line or anything. So that's basically what a taper is. No hard line at the bottom. Basically fades in. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Close that lever up. Bald it out a little bit. Go about yay high, 1/4 of an inch. Eventually open that lever. There it is. And then go slightly higher. And then it fades right into that half. So there you see it there. Alright. Always a good time in this atmosphere. So we have too much fun in here, me and my clients a lot of times. But it's all good fun. Alright, so definitely bringing the look in together a little better. So a few places that I want to smooth out and try to make a little smoother. Usually the longer you spend on the haircut, the more you can kind of perfect things. In a barbershop setting, you really only have so much time. Usually, 35, 45 minutes. You start getting into an hour and 2-hour haircuts, man. Woo. Those are hard, long haircuts. But normally I like to keep my haircuts anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. I feel like you can get a lot done within that time if you're an experienced hairstylist or a barber or know what you're doing basically in general. So basically here, just going over all of my steps, wherever I use a 2 guard or a 3 guard, just going over it, making sure everything is that much even, that much smooth. My number one objective is to create the cleanest transition that I can. So as you can see, kind of just going back over, chiseling at things. Looks like a number 4 guard. Alright, so here, just time to kind of set in place that front lineup, kind of get that going. I don't like to dig too far into the lineup, just kind of cut right at their natural line. And my number one objective here is just to make everything look as clean and as appropriate as possible. So. Alright, just trying to kind of dial that lineup in, kind of get things, once again, a little bit more detailed. That lineup does make everything kind of pop out. Adds that detailed look to the haircut. You can kind of see better from that angle. Up around the forehead area. Sometimes those eyebrow hairs will kind of stick out. Couldn't really see it much here, but there are those microscopic hairs that kind of take away from the look, in my opinion, so I do just go ahead and get that. Alright, cool. So a little close up for you guys, little side angle, kind of how the haircut's looking from various angles. Now here, I just kind of like to double check my work, grab that comb, any hairs that are kind of uneven, I'll attempt to kind of make that right, get everything nice and even. As you can see from the side angle, the comb makes it really easy to see what's uneven and to allow you to make it even. So I'm just going to stick that in there, whatever hairs stick over. Alright, so still cutting to a look, as long as everything looks good to me, looks good to the client. I think I've done my job. Pretty decent fade there, so I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Be sure to leave some comments, whether you like it, hate it, whatever you choose. So this is basically how I cut it. Right. So now, guys, just looking to add a little product. So I'm gonna go with the fiber wax. So Oat Spice swag, so that gives it that. This is basically a matte finish look, so it's gonna give it a just natural, pretty much a natural look. He kind of likes to go with spikes, so as I attempt to kind of spike everything up, add that product, spike it up the way he likes it. Right. So kind of a look with the product in there. A few different angles for you guys. Alright. Alright, cool. So once again, guys, this is a half going into the top with a drop fade and a taper. So you are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. I also wanted to kind of touch things up a little bit, so as you see me grab that number 3.5 metal, so whatever dark areas I see, I'm just gonna pretty much go over that. Trying to get a few of those little dark areas out, trying to get in there a little bit. That's pretty much what the barbering world is all about, trying to make everything a smooth transition based off the canvas that you're given. Right. So everything's pretty much looking a lot better to me here. Right, as you see me grabbing that number 2 metal, kind of going over areas where I use that number 2 or any dark areas that I see that might be in that number 2 region. So. Alright, yeah, it looks a lot better to me from that angle. Alright, so just a little finish up work, also a little artwork for you guys in the cut. Alright, a few different angles. Alright, so cool, man. I mean, thanks for kicking it with Ezekiel the Barber, Macho Man, bringing all the energy. Always try to make everybody feel macho. We are all super heroes in our own right. So this is the cut. What do you think about that, Macho Man?
Yeah, brother.
Huh?
That's right, brothers and sisters. Cut on. Hey, man, cut on, brothers and sisters. Cut on.
Well, there it is, guys, from the
Fresh
man.
cut. You're in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber.
Feeling macho, feeling good.
Barber of
You
the
are
world.
in the cut. This is before the cut. This is after
Rock
the
on,
cut.
guys.
So I appreciate you guys for hanging out with your hosts. Always a pleasure. Ezekiel the Barber. Until next time, guys. Take care. Oh, wait a minute. You know it ain't right without the hot sauce, baby.
What you talking about?
Oh, man. Let's not get him started. We'll say that for another episode. I appreciate y'all for chilling with us, man. Shout out to my model for today, allowing me to demonstrate this haircut for you guys. So everything pretty much looks complete here, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us once again. Until next time, take care.